Good evening, everyone. You're in the spotlight with Brian Garner for this Tuesday, June 12th, 2018. Good to have you all here for our first and only show of this week. Sorry about the late start. I'll explain in a moment. But as always, as we start the show, let me remind you all of the ways in which you can interact and contribute to our show. Have your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Please remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And as always, you can find us on Facebook. Just search In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook. And then make sure that you like our fan page so that you can follow us, interact with us, and all that cool stuff. All right, so here we are again as we continue our summer schedule, one show a week here as we go through the summer. So please keep that in mind. Again, most shows will be on Tuesdays unless otherwise noted. Maybe in a couple of weeks we might have to go to a Thursday, but I'll let you know about that in advance if that should happen. First of all, I want to apologize for the late time tonight. I had to work away, and things kind of went from there. So I apologize for that. You all know that happens from time to time. Lately, we've been more on time than not, but sometimes it can still happen. If I could have given you all notice, I would, but thankfully it looks like a lot of our fans, our longtime fans, they realize this stuff sometimes happens, so they they kind of take it in stride. But some of our newer fans don't quite do that, but that's okay. Eventually it works itself out. But anyway, I don't want to be I don't want to belabor the point. I just want to say I'm sorry for that. And that's what happens. Sometimes life happens. Sometimes you get stuck at work, and you all know the drill. You all know you've been down. You all go through this in life. You know that. That's sometimes what happens. You get stuck at work, and things go from there. So that's what happened to me. So that's why we're on the air late here tonight. So thank you for sticking it out with us here tonight. We don't have a lot to do. Normally if you looked at the show, like the kind of show that we're going to do tonight, you'd think, oh, it's going to be a long show, but it's not. And with me being by myself again, as my co-host Mike once again will not be here. I don't know when I'm hoping he'll come back next week for a little draft preview, but who knows? We don't know if that'll happen or not. So we'll have to see what happens. But I expect him to be back at some point in the summer. But we'll see. So again, not a lot to do tonight. In theory, like I said, if you look at the show description, you might think there would be a lot to do, but there isn't. So we have our usual box office beat. No TV highlights again. Like I said, it's summer. There's not as much going on, and Mike not being here, me being all by myself. If I don't get the TV, there's TV, which I didn't. Then there's no TV highlights for me to present to you all. So with him not being here and me not having anything to offer, I can't do the segment. So, so no TV highlights. So we'll do the box office beat. Wrestling wise, we'll do some Raw, we'll do some SmackDown, we'll do a brief Money in the Bank preview. Normally we do a big thing, but we're not going to do that tonight. I figure I won't do that without Mike, so we'll wait on doing any more questions or comments. We'll just keep to this previewing the pay-per-view, and that's it. And keep everything else out of it until he gets back. So we'll do a Money in the Bank preview. And then we got some sports stuff to get to. We got Julio Jones thing. We haven't done a football topic in a while, but I think this one bears discussing. So we'll do that. And then we'll finish our discussion of the NBA Finals. And spoiler alert, it won't be a very long discussion because there's not much to talk about other than the embarrassment of LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. We'll talk about that. And then we'll kind of wrap up our discussion of the NBA season, which we always do when a sport comes to an end. I didn't put this in the show description, but I'll briefly talk about the NHL and Alex Ovechkin and the Capitals winning the Stanley Cup. We haven't done any hockey. I feel bad about it. It's been a good postseason. But we'll do a little bit with that. And then we will kind of touch on NBA free agency, set the stage for that as well. So that's what's coming up here tonight on the program. So without further ado, let's get going as always. And like we've been doing, it's because, it's just easier to start with this. We'll start with the box office beat because, again, it's easier to start with. First of all, it's funny how a month and a half after it opens, Avengers Infinity War is still making headlines, but it is. It crossed the $2 billion mark yesterday. So a huge deal for them. And really, now, of course, that means a lot of people, for a lot of people, this means, well, wait, how far is it going to go? It is starting to peter out. It really is. It's starting to peter out. I don't know if it can do anything more than what it's. Well, obviously at 2 billion. Can it squeeze out beating Star Wars: The Force Awakens? I guess. I mean, it got that extension in China. I guess it could. I don't think it'll have enough juice to get to Titanic unless they do a re-release, which is entirely possible. But I don't know. They're gonna in order for it to matter, you'd have to get you know, I mean, you don't want to just re-release. I mean, they re-released the first Avengers and it didn't do great. If you're gonna re-release, you're gonna release it with the intention of trying to beef it up a little bit. So, I mean, I guess one of the things they could do, and again, you want to make it worth something. You don't want to just go up. We just made 500,000 more. That's not going to do much. You want to make it matter. You want it to have a substantial, impact. I guess the thing they could do, I mean, the conventional thing would be, well, we're going to re-release it with the D2C, but then it might take away from their Blu-ray sales. So I don't know if they want to do that. I think it gets released in August. What I think would be the smart thing to do, okay? And this is just a shot in the dark. I don't know if this is something that they even can consider, but it's one thing that they could do is re-release it and attach the first trailer for Avengers 4 to it. That could do something. Say that it's that this is the only place that you can get the trailer. Of course, eventually it would leak out, so that would probably hurt it. But I mean, that would be a thought. That'd be a thought. Or maybe like a sneak preview scene from Avengers 4, something like that. I don't know. But that's something that you'd have to probably do to make it have a huge enough impact to probably justify doing it. So we'll see. But right now it's at it's a little bit over 2 billion, and we'll see where it could eke out. I guess it could eke out Star Wars, but that's going to need a lot. I don't know if it can do that. Look, it's number 4 on the all-time worldwide gross, but that's terrific. It's done a great job. It really has. So that's a big headline here. But obviously we want to talk about the weekend and what transpired. And I mentioned this going into the weekend. We finally have a summer movie that's not a franchise. I mean, well, it's a franchise, but it's not a superhero movie or some kind of sci-fi-ish deal. It's a your traditional summer thrower-ish kind of movie, and that's Ocean's 8. This time a female-led version that a lot was riding on because we saw what happened with Ghostbusters and female Ghostbusters and everything. This movie had a lot riding on it to see if this thing can work. This whole female, I won't say reboot, but rebooting of franchises led by females, by women. Well, it worked out pretty well. I made 41 million over the weekend. It's up to 58.4 million worldwide. So on $7 million, but it's not bad. It ended up doing pretty well. So a pretty good opening. I thought it could pull in maybe a little more, but it's a good opening. It's solid. I think it's solid. So that, I mean, nothing too damaging. Pretty good. Now, the other 2 new releases did not fare so likely. I'll talk about those in a minute. But first, what came in second? Well, what came in second was Solo: A Star Wars Story, which in its 3rd week dropped from first to second, dropping 46% to 15.7 million, which, is not too shocking given what it's been doing. So, unfortunate, but what are you going to do? The movie's just, again, it hasn't done well. And look, people that have seen it said it's a good movie. It's a shame, but what it's the last, and we'll probably talk a lot about this going through the summer. Partly it's The Last Jedi, partly it's Star Wars fan. We talked about it last week a little bit. It's a shame. It's a shame what's going on with it because I don't think it's a bad. It's not the quality that's hurting this movie. It really isn't. It's other things. Deadpool 2 dropped from second to third, 14.1 million, a 39% drop up in its 4th week. That movie continues to do very, very good business. It's up to 657.4 million worldwide. It will cross 700 million, and we'll see how far it goes above that. So really, I mean, maybe you would have liked to do a little bit better. Maybe you would have liked to have done much better than the first one. It probably won't do that much better, but it'll probably exceed it a little bit, which is, hey, it's better than doing worse than the first one. So premiering in 4th was a new release from last weekend, Hereditary, 13.5 million, the horror film made. And that's a pretty good total. That's better than I probably thought it would do. So it goes to show the promotional campaign worked a little bit. So not too bad there for that movie, which has got a very small budget. So should be okay there. Overall, make some kind of profit. We talked about Infinity War. It came in fifth, dropping from fourth, 7.2 million and 31% drop off. You know, for all the talk about what Infinity War has done, making $2 billion worldwide, domestically it's made 655. It probably won't be able to beat Black Panther. Black Panther's going to end up being the #1 domestic movie probably of the year. Crazy to think about, but it might be. I mean, look, Marvel ain't going to care. It's you know, both movies are Marvel anyway, but that's pretty good accomplishment. Dropping from third to sixth was Adrift in its second weekend, 5.2 million at 54.6% drop, which you'd expect for a movie like that. They tend to be front loaded, and everything else finished under 5 million, including one of the new releases from last weekend, Hotel Artemis, which only came in with 3.2 million. This film, directed and written by Drew Pearce and starring Jodie Foster, Jeff Goldblum, Zachary Quinto, Dave Bautista, Charlie Bay. Good cast. This did not get over. Now, look, I'm going to be honest with you. Promotionally, I think they dropped the ball because I didn't see much in the way of promotion for this movie at all until the final 2 weeks. And that's not going to help it. It really isn't. So I don't think that help matters either. Plus, they tend to play more to older audiences. And, you know, I don't know. I guess competition ate it up a little bit too. But it's a shame because I heard the movie wasn't too bad. So that's your story. So really, this weekend's stories is Ocean's 8, the continued struggles of Star Wars, Hereditary doing decent, and Infinity War costing $2 billion. That's pretty much it. It's been an interesting summer because in the same vein as you got these big headlines like Avengers doing what it's done, and Deadpool 2, and Solo's crashing and burning, you know. But other than that, there's not much else. If you take those three temple, let's just think about this for a second. If you take out Avengers and Deadpool and Star Wars, you got nothing. If you take out the Disney movies, okay, I won't say that because Deadpool's not Disney, but well, it might be someday. But you take out those three temples, I think this summer is going to end up being a very quiet summer. It just is, I mean, all the headlines tend to revolve around the same movies, but hey, sometimes that happens, you know. I think it kind of reminds you of last summer where you had that kind of, but I guess well, maybe not, because last summer it was concentrated over more than 3 movies. Really, this summer has belonged to 3 different movies in terms of the headlines. So that's what makes it kind of unique. All right, so that's the story for last weekend. What's the story for this weekend? Well, we got 2 new releases, all right, and continuing the trend of movies that are not superhero, although one of them is an animated superhero film. So I guess you can count it as a superhero film, but continuing the trend away from, you know, comic book movies and, you know, your Star Wars type deals, okay? You have a comedy this weekend, the first really true comedy. Well, I mean, you had the Melissa McCarthy movie last month, so that one was one too. But this one's is a kind of a tempo comedy film. So, so it's a little bit on a different plane. But you have really a big comedy, and then you got our first big animated film. So our first big animated film in a long time, probably since March, I believe. And coincidentally, it's a Disney film, and it's like I said, it's kind of a superhero film. So 2 big releases this weekend. The first big release is Incredibles 2, an animated film from Disney, opening in over 4,400 theaters, with the voice talents of Craig T. Nelson, Holly Hunter, Samuel L. Jackson, Brad Bird, Catherine Keener, Sophia Bush, Bob Odenkirk, Isabel Rossellini, directed and written by Brad Bird once again. A lot of expectation for this movie. I had a lot of anticipation, been very well promoted. I expect a very good opening here and a very good run for this film. And with no animated film for a while, that should definitely help this one too. Maybe even inflate it a little bit. The second biggest release is Tag, a comedy from Warner Brothers, opening in over 3,300 theaters, starring Ed Helms, Jeremy Renner, and quite a few big names. R-rated. This is the film that Jeremy Renner famously broke both his arms on. This should get over really, really well. Obviously, I think they're going to hope for the male demographic. I think to get over well with anybody. Again, we haven't had a lot of comedies this year. This one has a unique concept. It's been very well promoted. Got a good cast. And with the lack of comedy, I think this one will do very, very well. I think it might exceed expectations. So, especially if it has good word of mouth. So, the box office will get a nice little boost from these 2, I think, even more so than Ocean's 8 last week. All right, so this is how I see this weekend going. I think Incredibles 2 wins the weekend with 50 to 60 million. I like Tag to make 30 to 40. It's R-rated, so it kind of holds it back a little bit. Maybe it might even make a little less than that, but that wouldn't be terrible. But 30, 40, I'm going to go with. Ocean's 8, I think, drops to around, I think it's very front loaded, probably around 18 to 20, 21 million. Maybe even a little lower than that, which would be bad, but I could do that. Solo, I think you'll see around maybe 11, 12. Deadpool 2 around 9. Hereditary around maybe 6 or 7. Actually, around 7. Avengers probably around 6 or 7, so it'll be close to Hereditary. And everything else be under 5 million. So all in all, it'll probably end up being a pretty decent weekend at the box office, especially with the 2 new releases probably doing very well. Now, I should add this. There is a movie that opens tomorrow, and that's Superfly, action crime film from Columbia, opening in 2,200 theaters. Don't expect it to do much. It's R-rated, $60 million budget, not much of a cast. It won't break 5 million, so we won't factor that into anything. So that's the story for this week. So it should be a fairly decent week at the box office. But next week, things pick up as Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom hits theaters. It's already doing huge business overseas. Better than expected. I think there was a lot of people that thought maybe it won't do as well as Jurassic World a couple of years ago did, because there's a feeling, like kind of like a Force Awakens, where hey, this is the second film in this new trilogy. Nostalgia. We don't have the nostalgia and the long wait between movies that we had. That will that hurt it? Well, it's done huge business. It's already up to $150.9 million overseas. It's already made almost its budget back. So, it's already in good shape before it even opens here, which is terrific. If you're a movie, that's what you want. I mean, before you even open domestically, you're already pretty much made your budget back. So that's terrific. So, there was a lot of people out there that were cautious. Well, what's not, I like that. I like that they were cautious with their expectation. I wish they were doing that with more movies than just Jurassic World. But yeah, they were cautious with it. And now I think there's going to be an anticipation here that this movie could do very, very, very well, maybe even better than people thought it could. Because I think a lot of people were thinking it wasn't going to do quite as well as the previous film. And I don't think that's the case anymore. If it has good word of mouth, I think there's a feeling they could do just as well, if not better, because of the fact that there's inflation involved. So next week should be a big weekend at the box office with Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which has been very well promoted. And that's the only big release opening next weekend. So that should be a big fact. And that's one of the biggest movies of the summer. It's one of the reasons why you're not seeing a true July 4th movie until 2 days after July 4th, which will be Ant-Man. And I think people got smart this year. We'll talk more about that when we get closer to the 4th of July. But I think people got smart this year and thinking, hey, you know what could wait? I mean, and maybe they'll start getting smart with Memorial Day too. Memorial Day weekend, July 4th weekend have not done well the last couple of years. It's the movies that have come before and after have done better. Well, you're seeing that this year. You don't see any movies really opening right around 4th of July. Maybe that's because the 4th of July is on a Wednesday. Maybe that factored into it too. But you know what? They could have opened it on Tuesday, and we've seen that before. Not this year. I think there was a lot of feeling of let's stay away from that, and we'll see how it factors into things. But with Jurassic World coming out before and then Ant-Man and the Wasp after, I think there was some feeling of just being careful. Some studios were careful, and you're seeing that reflected in the release dates this year. So, but yeah, so next week should be a big weekend at the box, and this week should be a decent weekend too. So, summer in full swing, and you get some different offerings here now. Kind of getting away from like the comic book movies and the Disney films, the sci-fi films like Star Wars and that kind of thing. So, a little bit of a different flavor here in June as opposed to May, which is good. You want that. It's variety. So it should be an interesting weekend at the box office this weekend, and next weekend should be a huge weekend, which we'll talk about next week. All right, so that's the box office beat, and that's all the entertainment we have. That's all the entertainment we have for tonight. We did a little bit more in the way of entertainment last week. So, not much going on this week. That's really the only thing we wanted to get into was the box office beat. So we'll leave it at that, the entertainment part of the show, and we'll jump now to wrestling. We're going to do wrestling next because, again, I try to get through the things I can move quickly through. And we have a pay-per-view on Sunday. But before we get to that pay-per-view, let me first quickly mention Raw last night and SmackDown tonight. Not a whole lot. I mean, I will say this much. The filler that you got the last 2 nights had a little bit more urgency to it, if that's even possible for filler. But it had a little bit more going for it than the previous few weeks. You could tell it was there in both cases. It was more they were go-home shows for pay-per-views. You could tell it's like there was finally some. You could tell the creative team is finally like, oh, we finally got here. Okay, let's tie up everything. Let's build to the pay-per-view. Because they've been kind of treading water over the last couple of weeks. They did so much of the setup early on. It's been 6 weeks between pay-per-views, 7 weeks. I don't know how long it's been, but it's been quite a while. So yeah, Raw last night. I thought the Fatal 4-Ways were very good. We got some movement on Rollins, and Elijah was a good segment, and Nia and Ronda. I thought Ronda had her best promo yet. I thought Ronda was great last night against Nia. Had some good stuff with Bayley and the Riot Squad. Oh no, it wasn't a bad show last night. SmackDown tonight, again, the same kind of deal. You had some good movement, some good stuff, but I thought Raw was the better show of the two. And I know I'm being very vague. I'm just trying to move quickly so we can get to the pay-per-view. I just want to make sure I acknowledge Raw and SmackDown. So, I thought these last 2 shows, these go-home shows for Raw and SmackDown were an improvement over the last couple of weeks. Weren't great still, but it wasn't going to get any better until you got to the pay-per-view anyway. At least this week had a little bit more going for it than the last few weeks have. So now we got the pay-per-view, and I know I'm the only person here, so I'm going to be just going to go quickly over the matches and give you a brief kind of analysis and preview, and then move on. That's why I said we're going to go quickly through this. So I apologize to our wrestling fans. It's just the way it is. So Money in the Bank this weekend from Chicago. Obviously, I didn't put this in the show description. We'll talk about CM Punk in a minute. I didn't put it in the show description, but I just got reminded of it. But the last time they were in Chicago for the Money in the Bank pay-per-view was CM Punk's big moment. So it's kind of funny how, he had his UFC match last weekend there and everything else. Kind of full circle. But anyway, we have a big card, and obviously, with the combined, with the brands combining for the pay-per-views now, you're going to have longer pay-per-views and more matches. So that's the way it goes. So it's a pretty big card. Again, I'll just go over the matches quick and give you some brief analysis. I do expect them to add one more match. They haven't announced yet. The Deleters of Worlds, which is Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy, versus the B Team. I'm expecting that to get added. Especially now that the Sin Cara Andre Sin Amos match has been called because Sin Cara then got hurt. So with that now, I expect them to add probably the tag match to the pre-show, because they're going to need a pre-show match. So if they add that, I'm going to assume that the Leaders of Worlds win, although they seem to be trying to get the B Team over. So maybe they'll give the B Team a nod. But I kind of feel like they won't have Bray and Matt lose until they're ready to split them up. And I don't think they're ready to split them up yet. They seem content to keep them together. So if they do that match on the pre-show, whether it's on the pre-show or the main card, I expect the Leaders of Worlds to win. I think it'll be a cool match, but yeah, if they do that match, I expect the Leaders of Worlds to win. So we'll see if they announce that match. I expect them to announce that already, especially in light of the Sin Cara Andre Sin Amos match getting canceled, but not happening. But I don't know. Maybe it'll probably just be like a random thrown together like social media announcement now, I guess. All right, so let's get to the matches we do know about. And I'll start with Daniel Bryan versus Big Cass, because it's a match that nobody cares about, wants to see. I mean, people care about it, but it's a match nobody wants to see. Look, their first match was all right. It was, but I didn't put any faith in Big Cass here. I think this is another chance for him. It's like, hey, you know what? Didn't work out the first time. Let's see what you can do the second time. He's not going to win this match because they have plans for Daniel Bryan. It's really just about whether he signs his contract or not. To them, this is a chance to see what Big Cass can do in a ring with a guy like Daniel Bryan. They gave him a chance last month. They didn't probably like what they saw. Nobody really liked what they saw. He's getting another chance again. If they don't like what they see, then I don't know what they do with him. Maybe they stick him in another tag team or something. I don't know. So this is a big match, I think, for Big Cass to at least show them that there's something there worth investing in as a singles competitor. I think this is a big match for him. It'll probably get about the same amount of time as it got last month. Regardless, look, doesn't matter really. I know Daniel Bryan's going to win the match. It's just really a matter of what kind of showing Big Cass has. That's what you're going to be looking for. But Daniel Bryan's going to win. I don't expect much from the match, but because the first one wasn't that good, but it is what it is. Next up, Bobby Lashley versus Sami Zayn. This feud's been awful. The promos have been awful. The gimmicks have been awful. I thought maybe Monday night it was a little bit better, but still, it's been. Look, Bobby's going to win this match. They kind of, and I think they just got to put this feud out of its misery. It's nice they kind of gave Sammy something to do on his own, got him away from Kevin Owens because they needed to rest that a little bit. But this was the wrong thing. I mean, he's doing a good job as a heel, but this program's been terrible. This let Bobby win and call it a day, and I think that's what's going to happen. I think Bobby is going to win. And it'll be an okay match. They'll give it some time because Sami Zayn can work and can make Bobby look good. I think Bobby needs to look good here. If they have any plans for Bobby, they need to make him look good in this match because the build up to this hasn't been any good. So they have to do something in the ring to make something to get the audience to kind of remind themselves of Bobby Lashley, or for those that don't know Bobby Lashley, they have to give him something to care, some reason to care about him. So this match is important in that regard. But yeah, I mean they'll give it some time because they'll want Sammy can work and Bobby they're going to want to show him off a little bit in this match. So, but yeah, I think Bobby Lashley will win. And hopefully this feud will be over. All right, let's do Roman Reigns versus Jinder Mahal. I'm trying to save the title matches for last. I like to do that. Roman Reigns versus Jinder Mahal. Again, a match that, I mean, it's going to get Raz in Chicago. It really is. So is Daniel Bryan, Big Cass. I can't believe they're doing those two matches in Chicago. Look, we know Roman's going to win the match. We'll see how Jinder does. Jinder did well in his match against Seth Rollins a few weeks ago. But I don't know if he's going to do the same thing with Roman Reigns, because to me this tends to be with this match. It's going to be a lot of power versus power, and I don't know how that it's going to translate. I'd rather have Jinder in a match with somebody like Seth Rollins, which one more, Seth can get a little bit more out of you. Roman's good, but he's not the kind of guy that likes to get in the ring and carry the match. He's somebody who likes to be balanced out. So, yeah, Reigns is going to win this match. I'll get maybe 10 minutes, and that'll be that. I mean, the feud's expected to continue. So, I mean, but I even with that, I don't expect them to continue. I don't expect them to have Reigns lose here. They'll just probably just have Jinder keep messing around with Roman Reigns. I don't think it'll be one of those things where Jinder cheats to win and the feud continues. I think it'll just be one of those things where Roman beats Jinder and then Jinder screws him out of something else to get one more match out of it. So Roman Reigns to win that match. All right, next up, SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Bludgeon Brothers versus Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. Should be a cool match. Both these teams, I think, match up well with each other. I think it'll be a fairly balanced match. I think it'll be a good match. I like the Bludgeon Brothers to win. But I think this will be a cool, very physical, balanced match that they'll give some decent time to. So I look forward to that one. Intercontinental Champion Seth Rollins versus Elias. This should be an interesting match because I think Rollins will get a great match out of Elias. Rollins has been on the road of his career. I think they'll give it some good time. I like this program. I like the build to this program. I think it's a nice little mid-card program. Rollins is going to win. He's going to retain here. But it's a nice little, not that Elias needs it because he's really coming to his own, but his ring work does need a little bit work, and I think this match could help him a lot. So Elias can get a lot out of this, even in a loss. So, but yeah, Rollins to win this one. That's another match I look forward to. I think it should be good. All right, next up, we have SmackDown Women's Champion Carmella versus Asuka. This is a tough match to call, and there's rumors, not to spoil anything, that James Ellsworth will be back in the company, and he will be back on Sunday. And if you take that into consideration, you start wondering, well, wait a minute, where can James Ellsworth fit? Well, the natural fit is with Carmella. That's the reason he left, and that was his program after he broke away from Ambrose and AJ Styles. So there's this feeling that he might help show up and help Carmella win or cause some kind of DQ to help her retain the title. And if that's the case, well, there's going to get major heat. And that may be what they're trying to do because Carmella has not done well in getting her own heat. So that's if assuming that's that's true, that Ellsworth is back, and it looks like that is the truth, and not enough sources are reporting it. Now I suspect that's what's going to happen. He's going to interfere in that match and either cost Asuka the match or cause some kind of no contest that allows Carmella to retain, which sucks. But look, I don't expect them to have Asuka's crowning moment at Money in the Bank. I know Money in the Bank's considered one of the big pay-per-views. I know it's in Chicago, but I just don't think it's going to happen there. I really don't. So I think this match will be awful. I think it'll be, if they do have a match, and that's a big if, because I can see them starting the match and it being kind of like a little bit of a few moments of Carmella dodging Asuka, and then Ellsworth comes in and screws the pooch on the match. But if they do have some kind of match, it'll be one of those things where Asuka dominates, and then, Ellsworth comes in, and that's that. So, but yeah, either way, I'm expecting Carmella to retain here. Do I expect to cash in? I guess it's a possibility, depending on who wins the women's Money in the Bank match. But I don't expect spoiler alert, my prediction for the SmackDown Women's Money in the Bank match is not going to be a SmackDown woman. So if it's a SmackDown woman, then I suppose there could be a cash. I think there's going to be at least one cash in on Sunday night. But I'm not thinking a SmackDown woman's going to win the Money in the Bank match. So I'm actually thinking a cash in this match. Next up, the Raw Women's Championship between Nia Jax and Ronda Rousey. Again, kind of like Asuka, I don't know if they're going to have Ronda get crowned at this event. I know it's Chicago. I know it's Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank is considered one of the big pay-per-views. I just don't know if they're going to do that. And I don't know if they want to do it on the first minute. But I also don't think they want Ronda to get pinned. So here's the thing. Either this match is a no contest, and I don't know if they're going to run 2 no contests, okay? Or Ronda's going to win. Or they run some kind of angle where there's a cash-in. Which, if a Raw woman wins, I could see that. Especially if it's Natalya, because they've kind of set up that program with the whole friendship thing with Natalya and Ronda. So, if Natalya wins, then you kind of know where the evening's going to go. I guess the same would apply if any Raw woman wins. Could happen. But with Natalya, it'd be an easy giveaway. So I think this will be an interesting match. I don't think it'll go very long because I think there's always, again, I think a Raw woman will win. So I think there will be a cash-in probably in this match. Or, within this match or after the match or whatever you want to call it. Your best bet, again, there's so many different angles it could take. It could end up being a DQ or no contest, and then they run a cash-in. Somebody could cash in and make it a triple threat like the Rollins, Reigns, Brock Lesnar situation. Or they could have Ronda win, but then do you really want to have Ronda losing the cash-in? It's probably going to be one of the first 2 choices. So, but either way, I don't think Ronda's taking the title on Sunday. I think this will either be a cash-in or Nia Jax will retain without pinning Ronda. It'll be like some kind of DQ thing or something. But again, they're not going to run dusty finishes in both women's matches. So something's going to have to give. Somebody's going to have to win something. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. I think this is one of those things where the Money in the Bank match will affect things, obviously. But also, I think, whatever you choose to do in one match will really affect the other in terms of the, championship matches for the women. So, but either way, I guess what I'm saying is I'm picking the champions both to retain. Which is interesting because they're both heels. Although Nia Jax has flipped a little bit lately. She seems to be the heel now. So I mentioned the Women's Money in the Bank match a lot. Well, I'm going to mention it again because the Women's Money in the Bank match is a big event, a big deal here because it could easily impact either one of these matches. So you got Alexa Bliss, you got Ember Moon, Charlotte, Natalya, Lana, Becky Lynch, Naomi, Sasha Banks. Natalya's got to be one of the favorites. I mentioned they set up the whole Ronda thing. You know that she's going to turn on her eventually. I think Ember Moon's a favorite. They want to have somebody break through. I think Alexa Bliss is a favorite. They want to have her get back into the ball with the Nia Jax program. Becky Lynch has had a little bit of a push lately. Those are the only people I can see winning this. I can't see anybody else winning this. I don't think they're going to have Charlotte win it because Charlotte's already had enough accomplishments, and I think they want to try to keep Charlotte away from things for a while. So until WrestleMania season, when they probably will want her involved with things in the title picture. So it's one of those women. And right now I'd give the edge because they made Natalya look very good last night. They really did. I kind of think it might be Ember Moon. I kind of think it'll be Ember Moon. We'll see, though. I don't know how that would work with the Ronda program that they're going to probably do eventually, but we'll see. But for some reason, I'm thinking Ember Moon. So I'll go with that. That should be a fun match, though. Last year's Women's Money in the Bank match was good. I expect this year's to be good. And in Chicago, and Sasha Banks will probably do something crazy, and Charlotte will do something crazy, and it'll be a fun match. Should be good and get a lot of time. The men's Money in the Bank match. It's like the women's match. We got equal representation from Raw and SmackDown. We have Samoa Joe, Kevin Owens, Bobby Roode, Braun Strowman, Miz, Rusev, Finn Balor, and one of the members of the New Day. It's very likely it'll be Big E. He's the favorite to get in there, so we'll see. Either way, it'll be one member from the New Day. Right now, I think Miz is the favorite. There's been a lot of talk of Miz winning, cashing AJ Styles, and then going after, and then facing off with Daniel Bryan either at SummerSlam or WrestleMania. I'd probably guess WrestleMania. So that's out there. If not Miz, I think it's got to be Strowman. But they've gone out of their way to really, really make it they made it almost obvious that Strowman's, going to win. And when they do that, it usually means he's not. I don't think, and look, Strowman doesn't need that case. Guys like Owens, Joe, those guys, and Miz, they need the case more than him. So I kind of think where they not that they had to work overtime to make him look strong. They spent the last 2 years making him look strong. But they have done that recently to almost imply that, hey, there's really no, it's almost impossible to think of him losing, which makes you think that he's going to get stuck outside the ring, and then, somebody like Miz is going to climb the ladder and win. He's not even going to factor into things. That's probably how it's going to happen. Again, it's a Money in the Bank match, in Chicago. It's going to be a crazy match. It's going to be a lot of fun. Lots of time. I'm picking Miz to win. If not Miz, I think they'll give it to Kevin Owens or Samoa Joe. It's going to go to a heel. I don't see it going to a face. I really don't. And I don't think Strowman's going to win. I just don't see it. I'd be shocked. Because they don't need to have Strowman. They don't need to have Strowman win that. I just think the only reason why he's in the match is because they have nowhere else to put him, and they figure, hey, let's win the Money in the Bank match. You can do some cool spots. So, but yeah, I'm going with Miz in that match. Plus, without everything that's going on with Miz, you guys on show now and everything, I think they want to push that. So, and finally, WWE Champion AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura in a last man standing match. This program for a lot of people has been very unsatisfactory. People haven't liked it. My co-host Mike has regularly said it's like a New Japan program, very slow build, very storytelling, and I just don't think people have the patience for this kind of story. And so much of it's been based on low blows and everything else. I don't know. It just hasn't gotten over people. Either way, I think this match is going to be phenomenal. It's going to be really interesting. The last man standing situation almost implies that there could be some interference, because I kind of think that's what's going to happen here. Because I do think I have this feeling Nakamura is going to win. Because I think they're going to give AJ Styles a break. And I think that because he might be injured. He hasn't wrestled at all in 3 weeks on SmackDown. So I kind of think he's banged up, and they might want to get him out of there for a little bit. So I have this feeling that maybe one of the ideas might be that they get Samoa Joe involved, and maybe when he loses Money in the Bank, he interferes in the main event or something like that. I kind of think that the stipulation implies that there's going to be something there. Because I just don't know if they're going to. I just don't know if they do this match if AJ was going to win. I just don't. You know what I mean? They could have just done they could have done any other match. In this match, I think it almost lends itself to Nakamura winning. So I think it'll be a great match. It'll get good time. I don't know if it'll main event. I kind of think it's either going to. I kind of think the Nia Jax Ronda Rousey match will main event. That's what I kind of think. But should be a good match nonetheless. I'm going with Nakamura to win. So I think they're going to move AJ off into something else for a little bit. They might get back to him again for SummerSlam, maybe do like a triple threat fatal four-way thing. But I think they're going to move away from AJ for a little bit, whether it's because of injury or to give him another program and give Nakamura somebody else. But either way, I think they're going to move away from AJ for a bit. So yeah, I'm picking Nakamura to win, which should be a very, very good match. And that's the card. So some good matches. The Money in the Bank matches should be great. This is one of my favorite pay-per-views, if not my favorite pay-per-view. I look forward to the Money in the Bank matches: Styles, Nakamura, Nia Jax, Ronda Rousey, Carmella, Asuka, uh, Rollins versus Elias, and the Bludgeon Brothers, Gallows, and Anderson. Those matches I like. The rest of them, But oh no, I think it should be a good pay-per-view, especially in Chicago. The crowd will be lively. And this pay-per-view always, to me, is a fun pay-per-view. It really is. It's always a fun pay-per-view. So it should be a very good event, and we'll see what happens. We'll talk about it next week. We'll see what the aftermath is. I think things will pick up for WWE after this pay-per-view. And going to SummerSlam and beyond, I think things will finally pick up again. That's usually what happens once Money in the Bank hits. So I mentioned CM Punk. Briefly, I wanted to mention something about him. Obviously, he did not win. Now he did last in the fight. He did last, but he still got beaten pretty badly. A lot of people think that Jackson was toying with him, which he clearly was. He clearly was toying with him. But anyway, look, you give Punk a lot of credit for hanging in there, and I know they pushed it on the air too. Oh, he's got a lot of heart in it. That's great. Okay, that's great. And I don't mind them really doing that. I just at the same time, though, at what point do we stop? I almost feel like this whole little engine that could thing is getting a little old. Okay, I understood with the first fight. All right, I know people are going to say, well, the first fight he barely got out of the gate and he was done. This one he actually, fought through, and he lasted through the whole fight, and that's great. Okay, that's great. But at the same time, why are we giving somebody brownie points? Like why not brownie points? Why are we giving somebody a pat on the back when they don't deserve it? Like, he didn't accomplish nothing. I could see if maybe he put up a better show. I mean, look, he lasted, yes, but that's it. He lasted. There's no point in that fight where you looked at him and went, oh wow, there's signs of like potential here. I'm not going to give somebody credit for simply lasting. He had a lot of preparation time. He's had 2 fights. He left WWE in 2014. We've been doing this thing with him for almost 4 years. And in 4 years, all we're saying to him now is, oh, good job for lasting. For all the training, the kind of people he was training with, and all the time and prep he put into it, he should do more than lasting. I'd like to see some part of the fight where he actually looks like he's a competent fighter, instead of somebody that can just sit in there and hang in there. That's not an accomplishment. That's nothing. This is the UFC. He's a adult. I mean, he's been in wrestling and mixed martial arts and stuff for how long now? Been training for 4 years almost. 4 years, whatever you want to call it. 3.5, 4 years. Why? Like, why? I mean, he's not a 12-year-old, that's in his first wrestling match that we're trying to give a pat on the back to encourage him to keep trying. Okay, he's an adult. He's a fully grown man that's been in training. That's an athlete. That's been in wrestling and mixed martial arts and all kinds of things, jiu-jitsu and everything. And we're crapping and patting him on the back for, oh, good job for lasting. That's a lot of heart. No. This isn't Pee-wee. This isn't elementary school. This isn't high school even. Treat it like it is. He needs to get out of the sport. He's not good. He can't keep doing this anymore. And look, Dana White all but said it. He's done. He can go to another MMA organization, but at the same time, what value does he have to them? He has shown nothing. Nothing. The only thing he has is a little engine that could narrative that really it makes no sense for somebody like him. It makes no sense. None. End it. I'm not saying he has to go back to wrestling, although he'd be nice to get some closure there. Go do what he can do. There's a lot of other things he can do. Go do them. Because it ain't that anymore. He's taking a spot on the card from somebody, and I'm not even a UFC fan, but I feel bad for people that can't get on the card when somebody like him that, gets, we're going to clap because he lasts now. Okay. It's like one of those cheap events that you can go, like, what do you call it? When you go to like a country western bar and you ride the bull. Can you last on the bull for 25 seconds? Oh, if you do, we'll celebrate you. We'll cheer you on. Yeah, 25 seconds. Yay. That's what we're going to do with Punk now. Every time he goes into a UFC fight. Okay, if CM Punk can last the whole fight, we'll celebrate him. Yay. Here's the thing. The only reason why I lasted the whole fight is because Jackson was toying with him half of it. Otherwise, it might have been just as bad as the first fight. He was maximizing his exposure, which Dana White is pissed about. You could tell. He all but said it. Or actually, didn't all but say he did say it. That he felt like that Jackson was an embarrassment in that fight, that he could have ended it early. So we'll get what? We're going to give Punk credit for lasting when really the only reason why he lasted was because Jackson toyed with him. So enough with the, coddling. Enough of it. Enough with the clapping. Enough with the coddling. I like Punk. But enough. Enough of it. It's just ridiculous at this point. That's all they were trying to sell us on Sunday, on Saturday night. Like, I'm sitting there like, are you kidding me? If he has a third fight, we're going to keep trying to sell that? Come on. Stupid. It's dumb. I just wanted to briefly touch on that because obviously that was a big story over the weekend. And, of course, with us talking about wrestling, it bared bringing up. All right, so that's the end of the wrestling stuff. Now let's jump to sports. This will be our final area of focus tonight. Briefly, I want to mention we got the U.S. Open coming up this weekend. Should be good. A lot of people are jumping on Tiger just like they did for the Masters. Tiger's playing great golf. I think he'll be in it. Will he win it? We'll see. McIlroy should be in it. We got some big names in it. I don't know who's going to win. I'm not even going to make a prediction. I just think it should be a good tournament. And if we can get some of the top names at the top of the leaderboard going into Sunday, all the better. It should be great. And that's what you can hope. That's what I hope for. That's what I hope for. Obviously, last weekend we had a Triple Crown winner in Justified. Again, very rare company. Not much I can say about it. It was just cool. Kind of anticlimactic. One of the more anticlimactic Triple Crowns because to me, after the first two races, it was a very, very obvious that this horse was going to win because he's been able to do great things in tough conditions. And the conditions were much better on Saturday. So, congratulations! A very huge accomplishment. Very huge accomplishment. So, yeah, that was a big deal. What else was I going to say? Oh, okay. So a couple little things. That's a couple little things I want to get out of the way. Now, let's do Julio Jones. We'll do the NBA stuff last. All right. So for those not wondering, Julio Jones is not showing up at a mandatory camp because, well, he wants more money. He has a deal, but this is one of the problems with the NFL and contracts. Okay. Unlike a lot of other leagues, all right, you can do this. You can kind of sit home and say I'm not going to show up, and most times management and ownership gives in to you because you don't want an unhappy player. In other sports, it doesn't happen. And why do they do this? Well, because as you've seen over the years, contracts get, the value goes up, and whether you're a wide receiver, a quarterback, any of these premium positions. Let's say like Julio Jones. He signed on the dotted line a couple years ago, this contract. And at that time, he got a deal that was probably one of the best, if not the best. And since then, there might be other wide receivers, some that might not be as good as him, that have gotten better deals because the value has gone up or they were able to negotiate. They'll say, well, Julio got this. I ain't going to go until I get this. Okay? And they get it. Well, and then Julio sees, well, wait a minute. Receiver A got this and receiver B got this. They're too high to me. I think I'm the best or one of the best. I should get better than that. I'm better than them. Why can't you give it to me? And that's kind of what's going on here now is Julio saying, hey, there's other guys out there getting better deals than me. I feel like I'm better than them. If you think I'm better than them, I want this kind of money. If you can't give it to me, I'm not going to play. And that's what's going on. And it's one of the most absurd things about the NFL. It's one of the reasons why people are really upset with it. I'm not going to get into politics and everything else. I'm not going to get into that. But that's one of the reasons why a lot of fans are turning away from the NFL. Forget about the national anthem stuff and the politics. It's because it's ego-driven. So much of it is ego-driven. Now, I know a lot of athletes across sports are egotistical. Most of them are, okay? But in the NFL, it's terrible. It's at its worst, okay? Because you don't see this. Think about it. You don't see this in the NBA. You sign a deal, you sign a deal. You're there. That's who you are. Yeah, sure, you can kind of try to force your way off a team into another team, but how it happens behind closed doors. You don't not show up for practice. You don't not show up for a game. You don't lock. You're not sitting out. You man up and you deal with it. And those occasions are rare anyway. And that's one of the things that the other leagues have that the NFL doesn't. And it's one of the things that makes those leagues have more likable athletes because of the fact that you don't have to deal with this crap. And as long as the ownership and management in the league continues to give in, because that's the thing I don't like about this. They always give in. They're afraid to stand their ground. And in some cases, they're afraid to stand their ground because that player is very important to them. It might be their top receiver. And they think, well, we don't have him, we're not going to win. In some cases, they just do it because they don't want an unhappy player. Just once, I'd like a team to say, you know what, you're not getting it. You sign a deal, finish the deal. You're getting paid well, because that's the thing that really irks you. Is that they sit out when they have good deal. I mean, what they're getting paid is good money. Good money. Apologies for that. We kind of lost our picture and sound there for a second. It's windy around here, so I don't know. Sometimes that can happen. So my apologies for that. All right. So as I was saying, they get good money. He gets good money. He already gets good money. He already has a top contract. There's no need. Wait it out. Now, I know in the NFL, there's contact and, you can get hurt and it can all end in the blink of an eye. So there's a lot of that. Players will tell you, well, you know what? I don't want to wait. I want to get my money now while I still have value. That's the value, the top value, so I can get that kind of money. If I wait to the end of my contract that I just signed, I might not get it. I might not be the same player. I might be hurt. I understand all that. But this makes you look ridiculous, though. You sign a big money contract at the time that's probably one of the best, if not the best deals you could get. You're a top paid receiver, whatever your case may be. And a year or two later, you're like, oh, well, so-and-so's getting this. I can't be less than that person. It just doesn't, the optics and the way it looks, it doesn't look good. And it's the reason why, you see fans roll their eyes. I mean, look, in general, fans roll their eyes at salaries in sports and entertainment and everything anyway, right? We all do. But they especially roll their eyes when somebody says, hey, you know what? The deal I got 2 years ago, that big mega deal that I got, not good enough. That guy's getting 4 or 5 million more than me a year. No, I'm not going to wait that out. No. I want to be paid now. And then, they try to relate to you. And that's where the disconnect is. That's where the disconnect is. Yeah, and that's where the NFL has a huge problem. Because the NBA, MLB, NHL, yeah, they all get paid very well, and they all get big contracts and stuff. And like I said, fans roll their eyes at those too. But it doesn't. There's not. You don't see what you see in the NFL. You don't see guys constantly sitting out, or you don't see guys making big stinks about contracts. You don't. Yeah, these guys might force a trade and go to another team in that. But most of the time, what's that about? It's about winning. It's not about money. Yeah, when their contract's up, they'll go out there and try to get money, but it's also about winning too. In the NFL, it's not always about that. It's not about winning most of the time. It's about how many more dollars I can get on my checks. And that's where you lose people. And at least in the other leagues, they say, well, hey, that guy's going somewhere to win. Can kind of relate to that. It makes him more likable, makes him more relatable in a way. Then, well, it's been 2 years, and in the last 2 years, these three guys have gotten a little bit more than me, and I don't like that. I can't have that. I need to be a little more than them. It's stupid. That's like saying, that's like buying a brand new house, right? You buy a brand new house, and then it's a beautiful house. Maybe let's say you buy like $130,000, $140,000 house, okay? You buy that house, and then, if you find out your brother or your sister or somebody, okay, somebody buys a house, maybe about the same price as you, maybe a little, well, I won't say that, a little more expensive than you, maybe a little bit more expensive than you. You're like, well, I can't have that. That's not right. They got a better house than me. They paid more, and that makes me look bad. It makes me look like I'm cheap. And you go buy, then you want to go out and buy another house. Because you can't. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I understand keeping up with the Joneses and all that stuff, but that's just absurd. It's just absurd. I mean, I understand they might have their reasons, but I don't know. The whole thing is every time there's something like this, it just rubs me the wrong way. I know it rubs a lot of people the wrong way. I like Julio Jones. I think he's a fantastic player. And I'm not going to say that everybody in the NFL is like this. There's a lot of NFL players that are not like that. But the egotistical ones are. And it's a very ego-driven league. Right? I'm not talking about politics or any of that stuff. Right? Because even before all that stuff started, you had players saying, well, I'm like everybody else. I want to provide for my family and all this stuff. Right? You're not. Because I'll tell you right now, if you're like everybody else, you are like the traditional person, okay, the conventional person, middle class person, okay, average person that lives on, a normal street in a normal house. Okay, if you're like that, if any of us, like me, for example, if I got the kind of deal that Julio Jones got a couple years ago, I'd be more than satisfied with that. I wouldn't be sitting on my job and going, well, you know what? A couple people bypassed me. They're making more to me. I'm not gonna come to work until you pay me more. They'd fire me if I did that. Most jobs would. It's not how it works. You got paid a value at the time that you made that contract, based on the standards at that time, and based on your performance at that time. To me, this is to me, okay? What you do is you work out the length of your contract, and you prove throughout that contract that you deserve more. Accept it as a challenge. Prove that you deserve more than the people that got more during that time. And if you do that, and you're still healthy at the end of that contract, then you've earned it. There's something to be said for earning it, not just getting it handed to you because. You've been good over the couple years since you signed that last deal, or maybe even been a little better. But really, your whole justification is, well, these two or these three or however many that got new contracts that are comparable to your position, they got more than me. I'm not going to play until I get more. So it's basically just because you just don't like the fact that people got more than you. It's not because you've done something over the last couple of years that made you feel like you earned more of that money. You, in your estimation, you're better than them, which is fine. You can believe that, and you might be very well. That may very well be the case. All right, but in the last couple of years since you signed that deal, so you're not basing it on that performance. See, if you go in there and you go to the ownership and you say, "Well, in the last couple of years, I've exceeded." Wow, we're having problems. I apologize. Yeah, it's the wind is kind of messing with things, so I apologize, folks, for the technical problems here. Um, but like I said, I lost my train of thought. Wow, but like I said, it's just what I'm trying to say. Wow, it's getting late. I apologize. If you go in there, if you go into ownership and you say, in these last couple of years since I signed my deal, my numbers have exceeded the numbers I had before. I've been healthy. I've been durable. Maybe you can say, well, there's a couple young receivers that I've helped improve. You could say my numbers are better. All right, if you can go in there with reasons like that, like think about that. If you go in and say, I've done my job even better, and then say, well, and then go, well, here's the other thing too. These two receivers who I'm better than, I think you guys believe I'm better than, have gotten more money than me. Yet I was already better than them, but I've exceeded what I used to do. I'm doing even more than I used to do. And they're getting paid more than me when I was already better than them before I started exceeding these numbers and doing all this stuff. You go in there and do something like that and present yourself that way, guess what? That to me would make me want to open things up and say, let's change the deal. That's one way to go about it instead of waiting to. Cause I prefer you wait to the end of your contract, because I think it's better optically. But if you present it that way, it's much more professional, and you would have earned it because you came in there and you backed up. You had reasons. You backed things up. It wasn't just like, well, sour grapes. You know what I mean? You really said, well, I'm doing even better than I was before, and I was already better than these guys, and they're getting paid more me when I was already better than them at the beginning of this contract. But in the last couple of years since I signed this contract, I've done even better than before. So I'm even more better. I'm showing that I'm even more better than I thought I was before. I should get paid more based on that. See, that's the thing. It's all, to me. It's all, if you do it that way, I can't quibble with it. If you just go in there and say, well, I'm not going to show up at workouts. I'm not going to show up at mandatory training. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to play a game until, because, I don't like the fact that a couple people are making more than me. That, to me, it just doesn't, it's doesn't work out that way. Doesn't look good. Doesn't sound good. Doesn't look good. That's my opinion. So we'll see where this ends up. It's he's one of the most talented receivers in the game. It's a big deal for the Falcons. They're confident that they're gonna handle it, which they will, because they're caved just like everybody else does. And then we'll just keep doing these kind of things again. And it's a shame because that shouldn't be the case, but so eventually they'll cave. But right now it's a saga, and it'll be a saga until they cave, pretty much. So because I don't think he will. So anyway. That's the Julio Jones thing I wanted to touch on. And finally tonight, we're going to end on this because, again, there's MLB stuff. But once we get done with the NBA and the drafts next week, once we get beyond the draft and that, we'll have the All-Star game. We'll have a lot of MLB stuff. We'll be doing MLB stuff all summer, so it's no rush to really get to it. Nothing's urgent. So, our last bit of stuff for tonight in sports and in general tonight will be the NBA stuff, and I'm going to be quick with it because there's not much you can say about the finals. It was a one-sided show. We talked about Game 1 in J.R. Smith, and we talked about Game 2. The Cavs had their chance in Game 1, didn't really have much of a chance in Game 2. Game 3, they had a chance and they blew it. Kevin Durant had a historic performance, and really, in my opinion, the best performance of his career, if not one of the best. When Curry couldn't do anything, when Klay Thompson couldn't do anything, Kevin Durant stepped up. And I know people are going to say, well, yeah, well, it wasn't that, it's not really a close situation. They're already up 2-0, a lot of pressure. No, that was still a lot of pressure. Cleveland was playing well in that game. That series is still a thing. Because remember, Cleveland went, because here's the thing. We've seen it before. We've seen teams go down 2-0, go on the road, lose 2, and all of a sudden it's a 2-2 series. That's still a big game. And so don't take anything away from Durant. Durant was fantastic in that game. It was fantastic in that game. He saved the Golden State Warriors bacon in that game. Because if Cleveland wins that game, I think they have a little... Here's the thing. Cleveland should have won Game 1. Game 2 was one thing. Game 1 should have been Cleveland. Cleveland could have been up 2-1 in the series based on performance. The only reason why they weren't was because J.R. Smith crapped the bed in Game 1. And because Kevin Durant came to the Golden State Warriors' rescue in Game 3. In Game 4, forget it. That was an embarrassment. Now, I'm going to go on in a minute about the Cavs and LeBron because I've lost a lot of the respect that I gained for LeBron James. I lost a lot of it. But I'll go on to that in a minute. First, Warriors. Look, you could have given the MVP to Durant or Curry. Durant looked like he was trying his best to give it to Curry in Game 4. Or you could have done co-MVPs. They both were equally as good in the series. But I liked the idea of Durant because I thought Durant had the bigger performance at a more impactful time. I thought Game 3 was a huge moment because Cleveland did come out strong. They did kind of have like a second wind after what happened in Game 1. Then they got blown out, kind of destroyed in Game 2. They came to Cleveland. They had a renewed sense of vigor. And Rodney Hood played well. That was a great move by Toronto to give Rodney Hood more minutes. Should have happened earlier. But I thought they had a renewed sense of vigor. I thought they were good in that game. I thought they looked even better than Game 1 because more guys were involved. It wasn't just LeBron doing everything. So I thought Cleveland actually looked better in Game 3. And then Durant stepped up, and once again, Golden State bites you in the game in the third quarter. That's their thing. They can half-ass in the first half, but then wow, and then that's it. They just lock it up in the fourth quarter. But Durant, in my opinion, because that series could even with what happened in Game 1, that series still could have turned in Game 3, because Cleveland had Golden State in a position where they were like, you know what? We could take this game. We have one more game left at home. We go back to Golden State 2-2. We almost won Game 1 in that building. We have confidence that we could try to do it again. We win Game 5. All of a sudden, we go to Game 6. We're up 3-2. You could see the wheels turning for Cleveland. They somehow had overcome what happened in Game 1. They bought into, oh, home cooking. We're home. That's probably what they bought into. They needed something to shatter them at home. Kevin Durant did that. That's why I think he was the right choice for MVP. And it was an incredible performance. Curry was great. Draymond Green, I thought, a good series. And Golden State proved it. Look, it does annoy me that they can't consistently be great, that they're very streaky, not only in terms of wins and losses, but in terms of in game. First halves are terrible for them. Second half is where it's at. Third quarter especially. I mean, eventually a team's going to get good enough where they're going to shut you down. Houston almost did. Or they're going to say, you know what? We're not going to let you come back in through the back door. We're going to shut that door off in game 3 in third quarter, and that's going to be the end of you. Because if that's the thing. Golden State's going to let you have your way in the first half. They're going to let you have your way in the first half. You got to shut them down in the third quarter. Because you do that, they ain't going to have much of a fourth. They get that momentum in the third, and they carry it into the fourth. You shut them down in the third quarter, they ain't going to have it in the fourth. That's really the key to beating Golden State, is making sure you lock them down in that third quarter. When you have them down, keep them down. Don't let them gain an inch. You let them gain an inch in that third quarter, all of a sudden everything's going to come careening down on you. And then before you know it, you're losing. It's how it works. It's how it works. So, congratulations to Golden State on their latest championship. Again, great performances by Curry, by Durant. Good defense when it mattered most. And then there's Cleveland. You give Rodney Hood credit for Game 3. Love had some stuff in Game 1, I think it was, that was okay. Obviously, LeBron had the historic performance in Game 1. After that, it was, I won't say pedestrian, but it was pretty average. It wasn't typical LeBron, especially in this postseason. Now, I'm setting something up here because, none of us thought anything of it. Game 2, Game 3, Game 4, how, he wasn't scoring like he was. In other moments of the postseason, particularly Game 1. It's still good performances for anybody else. People will be happy about it. But for LeBron, this wasn't great. It wasn't good enough. Game 2, nobody thought anything. But Game 3 and Game 4 was when people started to think something of it, where maybe more of it, I should say. And then after Game 4, obviously with Cleveland losing, it became a huge story. The feeling after Game 3 was he should have given more. And that they maybe gave up late in the game after Durant's shot. And then Game 4, it was, well, Cleveland never showed up, and really neither did LeBron. And I concur with that. Well, after Game 4, and I'm sure you all know the story by now. LeBron comes up to the press during the press conference. He has a cast on his hand. Claims that he's been playing the last 3 games with a broken hand. After Game 1, he was frustrated. What he did, punch a wall. Now, look, there had been reports after Game 1 that he did something and he, did something like that. Here's the thing, okay? If you break your hand, because we've seen this in sports where guys have been frustrated and they've done stupid things. If you broke your hand, okay, you'd have that cast on right after you did it. I'm not saying you wouldn't be playing, but you'd have it on. We would have noticed instances where you were in pain, and you wouldn't be able to do some of the things that you've done, like tomahawk jam. All right? Okay. Now, I know that his scoring went down after that, and he was in the 20s, and, looked like he wasn't performing as well as he did early in the series, which in a lot of ways I thought was exhaustion. Or just him, like after Game 1 being like, ugh. Or after halfway through Game 3 when Golden State started turning on, ugh. I thought it was just was that resignation, giving up. He did not look injured. He didn't show any signs of injury. So signs of exhaustion. And we talked about this last week. when they were trying to set this up. I think I mentioned and Brian Windhorst, who, look, God bless him. There's times I really like him, but the LeBron apologist crap has got to stop. Every time you turn around, it's, well, LeBron James, last week he had the story, well, he asked LeBron about the ankle, and LeBron said, oh, well, what'd you do? Did you expect me to be limping here? And now this week it's the cast. And, he's been playing with a broken hand. Oh, LeBron was pushing through pain. And then yesterday I hear they should elect a statue to LeBron James outside Quicken Loans. Give it up. Now, the statue thing they'll probably do because he won him a championship and that thing kind of stuff happens. But really right now? Why are we making excuses for him? Why is LeBron trying to make excuses for himself? I talked about this last week. There was no shame in losing to the Golden State Warriors. LeBron James had done so much for this team this year. This team had no business being near the finals. This team had no business probably getting out of the first round. They did so much more than a team like that should have done because of LeBron James. We were giving him credit. 2 weeks ago, people were like, oh, this is the greatest thing LeBron has ever done, which I thought was stupid. But regardless, people were giving him that credit. He had the freaking country eating out of the palm of his hand. So why on earth do you have to set up this narrative? Why do you have to make excuses for yourself? Well, I've been playing the last 3 games with a broken hand. Why do you need to do that? Oh, wait, maybe I have it figured out. Because these last 3 games, you didn't play like you should have played? That you gave up because of what happened in game 1? Because we already knew that. We already knew there was some resignation there. We saw that after the J.R. Smith incident when you look the way LeBron looked on the bench. The way LeBron looked at or did not look at J.R. Smith. The lack of leadership. The way he looked after Tyronn Lue said that they didn't have that they had a timeout left. The way they performed in the overtime. The way they performed in game 2. And then when they came back in game 3 and they had some sign of life because they were home and they kind of bought into the fact that they were home and maybe things could get better. The minute that Durant makes that shot, all of a sudden, we already knew that there were moments that LeBron gave up. But in game 4, they didn't even bother to show up. LeBron didn't even show up. He barely played any minutes. For him anyway. I mean, he played minutes. He played a lot of minutes, but by his standards. And while that's something that should not have happened, you never give up. There's a little bit of understanding there, too, because of everything that's happened. But we already knew these things. And I'm not saying we were letting them off the hook, but we were over them. LeBron James was not being blamed for this. And yes, the sweep is embarrassing, and that probably irked them too. We all know that. But this is not embarrassing. They were so much better than you. Now, I know the last couple teams really theoretically were probably better than Cleveland, which is why what Cleveland did was so amazing. You've done so many amazing things that, yeah, I understand it hurts to lose, it hurts to get swept and all that. Let's go up there and say, you know what? We had a great run. Did everything we could, left it all out there. Now, granted, they didn't do that. They kind of gave up in that. Like I said, there's moments they gave up. Especially they didn't even show up in game 4. But that's all you have to say. Why? Why is there always need to be an excuse? Why can't you just go up there and take your lumps and call it a season? Especially LeBron. LeBron has done for the most part, had done everything into the last few games. How? He could have left it alone and people would have wrote off the last 3 games. I don't even think people would have said he gave up, even though it was obvious he did. They probably would have wrote it off to exhaustion. If he just left it alone, he can't get out of his own way. He finally had gotten a lot of people on his side that were detractors, including myself, and then he does something stupid like this. Don't give me the broken hand crap. Because you broke your hand. We shouldn't be worrying about it 3 games after. And again, there were reports, but nobody said he had a broken hand. It was, well, he punched the wall or whatever he did. If that's the case, if you injured yourself that badly that you apparently that was the reason why your performances weren't the same, then that needs to be, then say it before that. When the series is only 0-1, because then people aren't going to go, well, wait a minute, you're making excuses. No, you come out after game 1. You come out right before game 2 and say, hey, you know what? I'm frustration. I punched the wall, broke my hand. Then, you know what? People go, all right, you know what? All right. Then we'll see what happens. Hopefully he can play through it. People aren't going to be skeptical. Now people are going to be skeptical. Oh, that's convenient. All of a sudden you're going to report that now. All of a sudden you're going to pull out a cast after playing 3 games. When after 3 games of you not showing any signs of that on the court, okay? After 3 games where you were dunking the ball like nothing was wrong with your hand. Give me a break. You didn't need excuses when you got swept by the Spurs in 2007. And that was a better team than this, by the way. You had a better Cleveland team. I thought you had a better Cleveland team than this when you lost to the Spurs and got swept. You didn't make excuses then. You lost, you lost. Why you got to make excuses now? When you had people already on your side, people that were already celebrating, you're saying, you know what, win or lose, LeBron, you've done a great thing here. Why would you do that? Why? It's idiotic. Whoever's in his inner circle that thought that was a smart idea has got a screw loose. I'm sorry. Somebody should have talked them out of that and said, LeBron, that's a bad idea, dude. Bad idea. And even if he does have a true broken hand, the right idea would have been to come out with it from the beginning. And if he comes out with this now, then you better have a good reason why you didn't say anything before now. Because the whole, well, we didn't want to give up the competitive edge. You don't have a competitive edge. You didn't have a competitive edge the minute that you got into that series to play Golden State. You didn't. They were so much better than you. There was no way you had a competitive edge. So don't give me that crap about competitive edge. No such thing for that situation and that series. There's no such thing. You were such an underdog. It didn't make a difference. It didn't make a difference. So you weren't giving up any competitive edge. That's BS. I nothing bugs me more than when they try to insult your intelligence like that. That's stupid. Competitive edge. Dumb, terrible decision that will lose him a lot of respect with a lot of people, including myself. I won't say I'm back to the way I was feeling about him, where I couldn't stand him, but that loses a lot of points with me. I'm sorry. You just go up there and own it. You lost, own it. And don't get me started on these Michael Jordan. I never thought he was better than Jordan. Never. Never. And I never will. I don't care how much good he is. He the best player in the game right now? Yes. Yes. Is he one of the best players of all time? Yes. I never disputed that. At least not in the last few years. Never did. But he is not in the same class as Jordan. And while he might be better than Kobe in some ways, as far as leadership goes, and in my opinion, as a champion, he's not as good as Kobe Bryant. He's won 3 rings. I know he's gone to 8 consecutive finals. I get that. But he's gone to 8 consecutive finals because of where he's been. Jordan and Kobe both stayed in one spot. They didn't go and have things dictated to them. You know, they didn't go like LeBron did when things got tough and jumped down to Miami and got the band together. He got Chris Bosh to come with him and got the band together to put together a team. He didn't go back to Cleveland and say, hey, Dan Gilbert, go get me this, this, and this and put a team together. They didn't do that. They stayed put. They didn't have everything put together for them. They had to work a little bit harder for it. Now, I'm not saying they didn't have to work hard, because obviously you have to go through a full season. You still have to play the games. Okay? And I saw what LeBron did this year. I think LeBron sells himself short because I think LeBron James could do a lot on his design. But look, he got him to the finals on his own, pretty much. He had one person to help him. He got a little bit. I mean, Kevin Love's good now, but if he had one more person to help him, he probably could have won it all. And we would have been sitting here, and I would have said this probably was LeBron James's greatest year, greatest accomplishment. But he's not Jordan. In a lot of ways, he's not Kobe. Or a lot of the greats. Well, I could go on. They had leadership. They didn't make excuses. They lost. Yeah, they found ways to firm the narrative the way they wanted to. That's what the greats do. And LeBron tries to do that, but he just doesn't do it right. He just doesn't do it right. He never has, and I don't think he ever will. It's just I just you know, foot and mouth disease is a thing. We all know that, right? But good God, how many times? I just don't understand it. He had done a good job for a while. God bless him. He'd done a good job for a while, but I don't even know. But anyway, you reap what you sow. It's a thing. We'll see. Now we got the decision 3.0. We'll see how that ends up this summer. There's some talk about the Lakers. I don't know if I believe the Lakers are the favorite. I think Houston is at this point. I thought Philly was a couple weeks ago, but then, the Brian Colangelo thing, we don't know what happened there. But yeah, we'll see how it ends up. Decision 3.0. And of course, you got Durant. Now it looks like Durant's going to be an easy negotiation. He's going to sign with the Warriors without issue. So that doesn't look like it's going to be. Draymond Green might end up being a thing because they're trying to re-sign him now. I don't know how that's going to play. We'll see how that plays out this summer. So they don't want him to reach free agency, but we'll see. But yeah, Durant looks like it's going to be an easy negotiation there. Obviously, Chris Paul will be out there. We'll see what happens. Paul George, Melo might get dealt. We'll see what happens. I would say this though, with the draft a week from Thursday. I would say, I know a lot of people are focusing on LeBron's opt-out. I would say a lot of people think the best way for LeBron to go to Houston is a sign and trade. And I'd probably agree. For that to happen, I think that would have to happen before the draft. I would think that would be the most, that would be the easiest way to do it. So that would be something to watch out for here over the next week or so. I think. So that'd be obviously LeBron's gonna be the storyline. If Durant things don't go well with Durant and Golden State, that'll be a storyline. Paul, George, Carmelo. Again, I feel like this is like Groundhog Day. Deja vu here. Same song, different verse. Another summer where we got these guys moving teams, and I know it makes for excitement and it makes free agency fun and everything. And, other teams react to it. They make moves, makes it more active. But at the same time, I long for the days when guys actually stay put. I really do. But, yeah. So we'll see how that'll be huge this summer. That'll be huge. I think there's a lot of people that think that LeBron and Paul George are headed for the Lakers. So, and I think that's probably the most likely place for Paul George. Although I will say this, I think Paul George is going to wait and see if the Lakers can get, if somebody else doesn't go there, I don't think he'll go there. That's the way I see it. So I guess what I'm saying is, if LeBron doesn't go there, or like somebody like Melo doesn't go there, then he probably won't go there. And Melo they'd have to make a trade for. So, but. Yeah, so free agency should be interesting. Should be very, very interesting. And it's going to be interesting to see how these teams deal with what's happened. obviously continuing to try to beat Golden State. Houston's going to be obsessed with it. They're already were obsessed with it, but even more so now. Boston, really Boston just wants to get healthy with Hayward and Irving. Philly, we'll see if they try to add a third piece because that's really what they need. Oklahoma City, we'll see what they do because they're going to lose probably Paul George, and they might need to lose Carmelo. Cleveland, what do they do? If they lose LeBron James, they're going to be in disarray. They're a mess. So that's going to be a big story. Lakers are going to try to get involved here and try to get things accelerated with their rebuilding effort. And then the Knicks, trying to reforge things and get them going in a positive direction. So those teams are going to be all storylines, and those are going to be all big storylines this summer. Very big. Now, look, I will say this is, now that the finals are over and, we got the season's over and, look, the playoffs themselves were not bad. We got the first round was great. The conference finals were great. The finals were compelling for reasons that you wouldn't have expected, obviously. Second round was terrible. The regular season was okay. It ended up being more interesting because Cleveland essentially gutted their team midseason, and then the East ended up being a little more crazier than we all thought it would. More teams stepped forward. The West ended up being interesting, more interesting than we could have expected. The Spurs kind of fell off. The Kawhi Leonard saga was interesting to say the least. We'll see how that plays out in the summer. That's another storyline. And then you had some teams like Houston do even better than you would expected them to. Golden State struggled at times, and see teams like Portland do even better than they expected. Utah. So it ended up being a more interesting season than you would have thought. Otherwise, you thought it would have been a predictable season with, Cleveland and Golden State dominating. But it wasn't. So like I said, it ended up being a better than North. Oh no, it ends up being a better than I would have expected season for the NBA. And the free agency should be interesting, and we'll talk about it as we go along here. And especially with the draft next week, we'll talk about it and do a preview for the draft next week and all that stuff. We'll talk about any big rumors and all that, and we'll do obviously a post-draft kind of deal, and that'll be that. And then we'll obviously any big moves during the off season we'll talk about. But it should be interesting. It should be an interesting summer, and we'll see. Before I wind down, I mentioned the NHL. I briefly mentioned it earlier. I said I want to touch on it. Obviously, Ovechkin won. Capitals won. Alex Ovechkin finally gets the Stanley Cup, which is good for the league. Crosby's got his. Those are the two, focal points of the league. Crosby and Ovechkin. Crosby's gotten his. Ovechkin's gotten his. He's been partying ever since. It was good for the Washington Capitals to get it for the first time. Obviously, Vegas was a tremendous story. Tremendous story. And you congratulate them on a great season. So you would have been fine either way. It would have been a good story either way, because especially since Vegas doesn't really have a star. But this was very good for the league, and they had a good postseason. They had a good Stanley Cup. So it's good. It's good for the NHL. It's good all around. And it was quite the moment. And it's good for Washington because there's they sporting wise they needed something. So kudos to them, and something that again we'll see if they can. We'll see if Vegas can build on this run. If we see what happens with Washington going forward here, and Ovechkin, can he get another one, and that kind of thing. But yeah, it ends up being a great sports moment. Really, really does. It ends up being a great sports moment. So congratulations to them. Great run. So I just want to touch on that, and I think that's it. I think we got through everything. It's after midnight, so we probably should go before the wind knocks us out again. So with that in mind, got through everything, so let's wind down. As always, the show might be over. It's not mean you have to stop interacting and contributing to the show. Continue to have your voice heard. Send us your emails, questions about the show, scheduling of the show, topic ideas, breaking news items related to sports, entertainment, or wrestling that you want us to cover. Questions about the show, scheduling of the show, reactions, comments, or opinions on anything to do with the show, anything we talked about. Any of these things you can do by email, Facebook, and Twitter. You can email us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Remember, hashtag itspotlight411 is what you want to use when you tweet anything regarding our show or anything to us, so make sure that you remember that. And, of course, on Facebook, search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and then make sure that you like our fan page so that you can interact with us and follow us, interact with us, and get the latest updates about the show and more. Again, social media very important, so you can get updates about scheduling. Tonight, I didn't get the chance to let you all know in advance that I was going to be late, but most of the time I will. So any last-minute postponements or delays that you know through social media, and also you know if you follow us on social media, you have access to anything we ever post, interact with us, and you know any opinions we post and all that stuff, you get that too. So it's good to follow us to have access to everything to do with the show, and of course all of our musings and whatnot. So make sure again you follow us on Twitter at IT Spotlight 401. Remember hashtag IT Spotlight 401 for anything you tweet regarding the show, and again on Facebook in the Spotlight 401. And then make sure you like our fan page so that you can interact with us and all that good stuff. 2 ways to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. You can either stream us anytime here on Google Plus and YouTube. To search in the Spotlight 401. You can stream any of our episodes. They're ever produced for Google Plus and YouTube. It's every episode from mid-October 2015 all the way up to tonight's current episode. Those episodes are available for you to stream anytime you want. Just go to Google Plus and YouTube and search in the Spotlight 411. If streaming's not your thing, maybe you want to listen to us on the go, or maybe just prefer to listen to us in general, or maybe you want to listen to older episodes of the show. If any of that applies to you, check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes, to search in the Spotlight 411. And then when you're on our show pages on both those sites, you'll have access to every episode we've ever done in nearly 8 years we've been doing the show. So every episode from our original Blog Talk Radio run from October 2010 and January 2011, all of our talk show episodes from January 2011 to all the way up to mid-October 2015, and all of our Google Plus and YouTube episodes from mid-October 2015 all the way up to tonight's current episode, transfer into audio format for your convenience. Every episode in audio format for your convenience for you to listen to anytime you want, all in order from the most recent date, that being tonight, all the way to the oldest, way back in October 2010. They're all available for you to listen to on the go or at home or anytime you want. Whether you missed an episode, missed a part of an episode, you want to check out an episode from way back when for the first time, or you know, maybe you're a longtime fan and wants to check out an episode again from way back when, or whatever the case may be. You can do all that and more on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes, to search for in the Spotlight 401. So Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean and iTunes, and Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean and iTunes are your 4 ways to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. To search for in the Spotlight 411 and to search for in the Spotlight 411. Again, Mike not here tonight, so no shout out for him. We'll maybe have him back next week, so we'll see. Hopefully he'll be back for the draft stuff. So, but hopefully everything's going well for him. Thank myself for another great show. Pat myself on the back, and thank all of you for your continued support and contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching. To those that'll be watching or listening to this in archive, thank you to you as well. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, a great weekend, and a great start to your week next week. We'll see you back here for our next show as we continue our summer schedule. 1 week from tonight, that will be June the 19th at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, broadcasting and streaming live here on YouTube. That's our next show. We'll have the box office beat. We'll preview the NBA draft and any other big trade rumors and stuff we'll talk about related to the NBA. We'll do a little baseball next week. We'll have some time probably for that. We'll obviously talk about the aftermath of Money in the Bank, WWE Money in the Bank, and of course Raw and SmackDown. And anything else big we have to cover. U.S. Opens this weekend. We'll talk about that. And again, anything else big from sports, entertainment, wrestling we have to cover, we will make sure to do that. So all that will be coming up 1 week from tonight. Next Tuesday, June the 19th, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, broadcasting and streaming live here on YouTube. So until then, hope you all have a great rest of your week, a great rest of your night, great weekend, a great start to week next week. We'll see you back here next Tuesday. Happy Father's Day too. And again, a week from tonight, next show, wow. Yeah, it's okay. I apologize. I got that wrong. Yeah, it'll be June the 19th. Okay, so I had it right. I got thrown off by my date on the thing. So, yeah, so we'll see you back here 1 week from tonight, next Tuesday, June the 19th, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Until then, have a good night, everybody.